A figure holding a sign marked null looks down at a smaller individual, their conversation beginning amidst a backdrop of energetic sound effects. A spectral being with wings poses dramatically, asking about the true wish of the smaller figure, prompting an intense, troubled reaction. The winged figure leans in conspiratorially, offering a partnership and suggesting they both seek a world where the smaller one can simply be themselves. An individual with a shadowed expression is surrounded by motion lines as they are told, "I'll handle the rest." A fleeting moment of resolve in a chaotic scene. The shadowed figure declares their intention to aim that high. In the face of a challenge, as a much larger speech bubble urges them, "Don't worry about me." With an intense look, the person is told to go humble yourself, while simultaneously being presented with a choice, a noble heart, or a world where you exist. Two characters crouch in the brush, one animatedly declaring that something was super cool, while the other is shown mid-speech. The animated character continues their thought with a smug look, stating that such callous nobles still exist. A character with a dark fringe stares intently, an internal reaction visible, before asking the speaker, "Oh, that face. Are you pouting?" Another duo hides behind a rock, one of them whispering to keep quiet, hinting at unseen dangers as they prepare to move. The duo's fears are confirmed as a massive, snarling wild dog is revealed, leading a fearsome pack through the snowy, barren landscape. The original two characters are now also in the snowy field, with one pulling the other away and urgently instructing, "Let's sneak past them. Don't make a sound, okay?" A frantic companion yells at their charge, demanding to know what they are thinking after they dangerously pondered which was stronger, the dogs or the thugs before. The companion clamps a hand over the other's mouth, urgently whispering, "This isn't time to be getting into a fight," while a rumble sound effect accentuates their tense situation. In a dynamic action shot, the companion leaps and tackles the smaller figure, pulling them violently into the dirt to evade an unseen threat. The companion shields the smaller figure with their body, reassuring them they are safe, while they both catch their breath after the narrow escape. A series of vertically arranged panels show the characters moving on foot, with one taking the lead and the other following close behind. The journey culminates as they arrive at a massive, fortified structure adorned with a large, winged figurehead, with the lead character declaring their destination is finally in sight. In a bold, high-contrast frame, a hand is shown holding a small, ornate picture frame or book, with the question, "Can I ask you one thing?" looming large. The first speaker, an individual with cat-like features, answers the query with a coy look, while the second speaker confirms their willingness to talk. The cat-like figure leans forward, their expression shadowed and intense, asking in return how a king is chosen in the second speaker's country. The second speaker responds in a subdued tone, looking away as they utter a simple phrase of acknowledgement. "I see, ah." The second speaker then explains that a king is drawn by fate and chosen by the people, clarifying their unique status as a dream-drawn king. The final panel shifts to a sweeping view of a kingdom shrouded by a massive forest, its landscape blanketed in snow, and the speaker names the location as the United Kingdom of Ukrainia. The cat-like individual continues their explanation, detailing how the royal family has reigned supreme for the entirety of the country's 765-year history. The speaker dramatically pauses, looking upward with a somber expression as they state, "And now," before a thought is abruptly cut short. A towering structure crashes down in a violent, vertical torrent of black debris, completely obscuring the landscape in a moment of utter destruction. From the rubble, a single person emerges, their face grimy and marked with blood, looking directly at the viewer with an unsettlingly calm, determined gaze. A quiet interlude follows, with the speaker offering a gentle sentiment. A few short days have been enough to make the listener feel at home in the kingdom. The speaker then somberly recounts a terrible event, confirming that the listener's family was murdered and that the culprit remains a fugitive hidden in the realm. The dark-haired speaker holds a box of popcorn with a menacing look, declaring that such an event will shake the very earth itself. The perspective dramatically shifts to a bright-eyed, short-haired character who reacts with wide-eyed surprise, a sound effect of "ta-da" accompanying their shock. A panoramic view reveals the grand palace, with the wide-eyed character now visible on a balcony, observing the lively activity in the city below. A large, stylized panel shows the character who was just on the balcony now on the ground, pointing up and expressing a wish to see the sacred place where it's arrived. The dark-haired character, now dressed differently, speaks in a narrow, vertical panel, noting the huge crowd in the capital, which they suspect is there for Her Majesty's funeral. The final panels show a flurry of conversations between a group of people, with several speech bubbles indicating the complexity and seriousness of the political atmosphere and recent events. In a narrow panel, two figures discuss a light-haired and fair-skinned individual from a different tribe, hinting at the presence of outsiders in the crowd. The focus shifts to the wide-eyed, short-haired character, who points out a small, winged insect hovering near a mysterious, cloaked figure. The scene cuts to a group of men sitting on a bench who are openly staring and commenting on the lack of horns and long ears on a passing figure, calling it a rare sight. The dark-haired character, standing close to the mysterious figure, gazes at them intently and makes a firm declaration. "You're from the Elda tribe." The speaker is then seen making a sudden, hurried movement, grabbing the other person's arm and shouting, "What's a tainted tribe doing in the capital?" before quickly adding, "Let's go." The wide-eyed character, now with a look of pure shock and holding their cheek, gasps in realization, "Oh, an Elda tribesman." The short-haired character asks their dark-haired companion what they are looking at, while a third person's face is visible in the background, joining the tense discussion. A close-up shot of the short-haired character's face is filled with alarm, demanding to know what is wrong with the people in the area. The short-haired character looks back at the dark-haired companion with exasperation, asking, "Are they ticked at me?" while a small thought bubble laments the wasted potential of a power they could have used. The dark-haired companion confronts their friend, demanding to know how they can be so calm about this issue. The short-haired character, holding the small frame, responds with a shrug and a smile, stating simply, "I've got this, so I don't care." The short-haired character reacts with an explosion of excitement, their entire body trembling as they shout, "Oh, wow." The short-haired character looks down at the small framed object they are holding and asks their companion to confirm. "That is a book, right?" The short-haired character's companion, the dark-haired figure, smiles slightly and asks if they are interested, noting that the companion has never seen a book before. The dark-haired character holds up the book and offers it to the short-haired person, asking if they want to try reading it. The two characters are sitting outside, and the dark-haired one explains that the book is a fantasy novel describing a world that doesn't exist, where people are accepted regardless of their origin. The page of the book is opened in a dramatic splash panel, revealing text that describes a world with only one tribe, where everyone accepts one another, and no prejudice exists based on birth. The dark-haired character emphasizes the results of that prejudice-free society, a world where, with just knowledge and industry, they built great cities. The first character confirms the ideal of the proposed world, stating that no one is left out in that realm. The short-haired character, with a hopeful look, says the idea sounds nice and expresses a sincere desire to go there. The dark-haired character looks down with a shadowed expression, wistfully noting, "If only it was real," and reminding the other that it's only a fantasy. The dark-haired character, startled by a sudden realization, cries out, "Oh, surprising the person sitting next to them. The dark-haired character leaps up in a hurry, apologizing for having forgotten an errand they were running and hastily saying goodbye to the other person. The short-haired character looks on in confusion, commenting on the hurried departure of their companion and wondering what the sudden rush was about. Two people in the crowd exchange hushed, worried whispers about the funeral and the kingdom's uncertain future, the text barely legible in the crowded scene. A group of 3 men discuss the kingdom's plight, lamenting the king's death, the disappearance of the monster, and the prince's ambush 10 years ago. The dark-haired character looks out with a determined but desperate expression, whispering, "If only we had a surviving heir." A character with a bandana nervously looks down, confirming the public does not know the true details of the situation. The dark-haired character, with a face full of dramatic realization, shouts the shocking revelation, the prince is still alive. The two characters from the first panel continue their low-tone discussion, their words indicating that even the discovery of the prince might not be enough to mend the kingdom's fractured political state. In a moment of hurried planning, the group discusses the urgent necessity of acting without the prince's approval, as there is no other way to lift the curse. A close-up reveals the leader giving out orders. They must relay an order to Grillis, their ally in the army, and then it will be time to carry out their plan. The team, energized by their leader's words, rallies together and declares, "We have to do it," acknowledging there is no other way to lift the curse. The leader directs the team, insisting they must go to the capital now and reiterating the command to carry out their plan. A cat-like individual is shown in a sharp, dramatic close-up, the final part of the instruction hanging in the air, and relay an order to Grillis, our ally in the army. A helmeted figure, the recipient of the orders, stares ahead intently, confirming the mission with a terse, charged question. Understood. The helmeted character holds the small frame with a determined expression, declaring they have to save him for the future of the people, recalling the urgency of a girl they met earlier. The perspective widens to show the helmeted character observing a figure in the distance and recognizing the name of a hero who was once rejected by the capital. The helmeted character rushes forward, shoving aside another person while yelling, "Out of the way!" in their frantic pursuit. The helmeted character is seen in a frantic run, being pursued by a small figure who is angrily yelling at them. The pursuer, a dark-haired individual, demands to know what the helmeted one is doing, shouting, "That girl Margot." The pursuer, now fully in the foreground, angrily points and yells that a person named Parapis stole her wagon, and that he's a kidnapper who took a little girl. The dark-haired character grabs the helmeted one, shouting, "What do we do?" And no, as a thud sound effect emphasizes the impact of the confrontation. The helmeted character is yanked abruptly upward by the dark-haired one, who looks down with an expression of frantic panic. A fair-haired individual confronts the dark-haired one, demanding they let the girl go, while the dark-haired person shouts back in refusal. The fair-haired individual, with a tense face, observes the dark-haired person and notes with suspicion, "He's trying to leave the capital." The fair-haired character turns to a companion, their face close up and determined, as they exchange a brief, silent understanding. The dark-haired character glares intensely at their opponent, who simply tells them to watch the road so they don't crash, before asking pointedly, "Who are you?" The small, frantic figure continues their pursuit and interrogation, demanding to know what the other person wants and threatening to report them to the authorities. The fair-haired person turns their head sharply, their eyes wide with surprise as their gaze fixates on something shocking, the fairy on your shoulder. The two pursuers momentarily forget their conflict and express relief and joy at finding the other person alive, realizing they must be the Elda on the wagon. The fair-haired person's expression quickly turns intense and serious as they ask the critical question. "So, do you know that little girl?" The dark-haired character glowers at the fair-haired one, demanding they explain yourself first before daring to ask such pretty cocky questions. The fair-haired character looks away with a troubled expression, murmuring that as a noble, they just couldn't see a girl get kidnapped and just let it happen. The short-haired character asks their fair-haired companion what the matter is, sensing that something is bothering the noble, who admits to feeling a little angry. In a tight, vertical shot, the fair-haired character's gaze shifts upward, focusing intensely on the dark-haired companion as they listen to an added detail, plus. The dark-haired character, with a passionate expression, recalls the girl's reaction, stating with conviction that she was super happy when they read her the book. The dark-haired character holds up the book to the girl and confirms the book is special to them, while the girl admits she also likes the book. The short-haired character tells the dark-haired one that the story is not a fantasy, but a world they believe could exist, even as the dark-haired one doubts it. The three characters share a moment of levity, smiling together as the short-haired one suggests that it's okay if the others laugh at them, a sentiment the others agree with. The short-haired character looks directly at their companion with a face full of earnest conviction, offering an encouraging, "I'm sure you can do it." The fair-haired noble turns away, holding the book protectively, and quietly insists, I would rather die than sell this book. The fair-haired character stands their ground, telling the dark-haired one they can lend it to me after we catch the kidnapper, and asks why the other would rather die. The dark-haired character, hunched over and struggling, is scolded by the fair-haired one to speed up a little and apologizes, saying it's not like they have some extra weight or anything. The dark-haired character abruptly drops their load and points, shouting, "There he is," as the two rush into action, indicating the kidnapper is in sight. The two characters pursue the target, one leaping forward with great energy, as the other shouts a warning to not let him get away with the girl. The fair-haired character looks on with quiet resolve, their expression firm as they declare, "Not on my watch." The dark-haired character, struggling, looks back in confusion, demanding to know what was said while being pulled away by the other. The fair-haired character makes a violent, leaping tackle, slamming into the target with an impact marked by a huge thump sound effect. The fair-haired character, having successfully intercepted the target, is now engaged in a fierce wrestling match, throwing a punch while a third person shouts a warning. The original target is thrown backward in a sudden, explosive motion, hitting the ground amidst flying debris with a resounding crash. The dark-haired character points a finger at the fair-haired one, accusing them of making a huge mess and asking if they realize what they've done. The short-haired character explains that the sword was made from magic-imbued ingots, and with their magic, they can fix it, while their companion wonders about a mysterious past event. The fair-haired noble angrily confronts a group of townspeople, demanding to know what they are staring at and warning them away from the situation. The kidnapper, holding the small girl, yells in confusion as the girl looks at him with wide, trusting eyes and calls out a familiar name. The girl turns her head and addresses the fair-haired noble by name, her gaze full of innocent expectation, a soft plea escaping her lips. The dark-haired character, looking tense and suspicious, notes that the kidnapper isn't a bad person and reveals he promised to return the girl later. The dark-haired character looks out over the desolate, snowy landscape and explains the traumatic truth. My village was destroyed by a mysterious monster. The tall, dark-haired figure explains that despite their efforts, they couldn't find a proper job, and their family was betrayed and forced to leave the capital, resulting in a complete failure. Anger consumes the figure as they reflect on the situation, lamenting that they tried to buy medicine, but those sanctists jacked up the prices. The figure recalls a sudden encounter while wandering around town, rejected and alone, when they unexpectedly came across the little girl. The figure explains his wicked plan. Knowing many rich folks have strange tastes, they would gladly pay for a child's unmixed blood, offering a way to make enough money. A fair-haired noble, with a look of quiet shock, confesses that they had tally-skipped class before and had never kidnapped a child in all their years. The final panel shows the fair-haired noble's internal torment. With a look of absolute frustration, they admit, "I regret it. I regret everything." The tall, dark-haired figure looks on, stunned by the noble's sudden confession, their face a mask of shocked realization. The noble, still looking away, throws a bag of money at the dark-haired figure, instructing them to buy medicine and some good food with the earnings. The dark-haired figure catches the money with a shocked expression, acknowledging the noble's unexpected generosity before being told to not thank them anymore. In a high-contrast close-up, the noble's eyes flash with conviction as they shout their justification, "Because I'm a noble." The dark-haired figure returns to a place of quiet focus, agreeing with the noble's earlier actions and stating they won't sell their daughter to the market. With an intense, determined shout that fills the final panel, the noble declares a bold intention: "I will change this country." The fair-haired character looks into their companion's eyes, expressing a deep desire to make a world like the one in the fantasy book. The companion turns away, their form silhouetted, and makes a solemn vow: "I won't forget this for as long as I live." The noble is shown physically shaking their companion, demanding to know why they gave him everything they had, a deep frustration evident in the action. The companion pushes back against the noble, declaring with a loud "shut up" that the issue is a matter of pride for them as a noble. The fair-haired character is shown in a close-up, the final words of a request hanging in the air. "So, can I ask you a favor?" The two characters are seen having a tense discussion, one questioning why the companion doesn't just return to her family, while the other insists they must return the girl to her family once they are back at the capital. The two allies discuss a strange phenomenon in the woods, with one noting a new flower and the other confirming the appearance of a strange fruit. A close-up shows the leader with a skeptical, demanding expression as they look at their companion and curtly ask, "Thank why dash," before cutting them off with a look. The small, wide-eyed character, with a shocked face, desperately begs their companion, "Then run. Hurry," repeating the desperate plea for immediate flight. An overhead view shows the ground violently erupting, with an enormous rumble sound effect as the leader shouts in angry denial, "No, not again." The central figure is thrown violently through the air in a blur of motion, shattered rocks and debris surrounding them, emphasizing the incredible force of the blast. The main character lands hard on their back, their body covered in dust, and with a grim expression, they declare the explosive force. This is Valamo. The two allies recoil from the blast, the leader shouting a dire warning about the devastating power, while their companion stares in shock, gasping a name. A second, massive explosion rips through the air, sending shards of debris flying in all directions, as the central figure is violently thrown to the side. The leader rushes back into the fray, running across the creature's back as a huge, monstrous figure with tusks emerges from the smoke, dominating the frame. The leader is knocked away again, the creature roaring in an angry counterattack as another figure in the distance reacts to the sound of the battle. The main character lands hard and immediately gets back up, their face grim with resolve as the creature continues its furious onslaught against the two figures. The main character is flung upwards one final time in a vertical arc, their body twisted in motion as the creature's massive form is destroyed in a cascade of flap sound effects. The light-haired noble apologizes with a sorrowful expression, holding the book out to their companion as they acknowledge their mistake. The dark-haired companion gently takes the book, their expression softening as they assure the noble, "It's okay." The two figures stand small against a desolate, open landscape, facing an uncertain future as they prepare to move forward. The dark-haired companion looks down in quiet contemplation, questioning aloud who it was that had called the noble stupid earlier. The noble, now sitting in a relaxed posture, looks back with a knowing smile, their posture confident as they throw a retort right back at their companion. The noble's eyes sharpen with a fierce determination, their voice full of conviction as they declare their strength. "I'm Stroll." The leader gazes out with a solemn expression, committing to their next step. "I guess this is where we part ways." With a quiet thank you, the leader promises to make sure Maria gets home safe, their immediate mission now focused on the girl. The short-haired character looks on in confusion, commenting that it's gotten dark and asking what the hushed honeybee is talking about. The leader is shown in a close-up, their face radiating warmth as they address the girl as the hushed honeybee. The girl looks back at the leader, a question in her eyes as she asks what the strange nickname means. The leader's expression softens in the final moment of parting, promising that they will be strong and will definitely come back for the girl. The dark-haired character returns with a small figure in tow, declaring, "And I'm back," while a companion greets them, saying, "You are alive." The two figures converse in low tones, their dialogue expressing relief that the companion is alive and a wish for them to leave the capital quickly. A group of three men, looking conspiratorial and regal, assure the returning dark-haired figure that they have missed them, but caution them to keep their return secret. A leader reveals the unsettling truth to a comrade. The prince's condition has gotten worse, and their special team has not turned up any clues about his illness. The leader's face, now shadowed and grim, is seen in a chilling close-up as he delivers the final, shocking command, "I will assassinate Louis." Another noble suggests a calculated move. If they can only spare the prince for a single night, the leader should carry out their plan at the funeral the following day. An advisor cautions a co-conspirator that the odds are high the prince will attempt something at the funeral, suggesting they use the ensuing chaos to strike him down. A young noble looks on with a troubled expression, whispering that with the Prince Louis as king, the country would undoubtedly be a nightmare. The dark-haired character bursts into the tense meeting, offering their support for the group's secret endeavor. Let me help with that plan of yours. A startled conspirator demands to know who the newcomer is, while the unexpected arrival assures them they know of their secret plans. The dark-haired character points at the horrified nobles, revealing that he knows of their intentions to assassinate the prince and seize the throne. A frantic noble realizes the sudden arrival must be the prince in disguise, his identity finally confirmed in a shocked whisper. The prince dismisses a previous offer of protection, stating that he would rather die than break his promise to his allies. A masked figure asks about the prince's true purpose, an inquiry met with a sharp question from a conspirator about his goal. The prince is confronted by a massive, shadowed figure, a guard perhaps, who demands to know what is your goal. The prince then explains the logistics of his clandestine arrival, noting that he avoided the front door because the kidnapper had spotted him earlier. A noble questions the prince's motives, distrusting anyone not in their organization and demanding to know why are you trying to help us. The prince addresses the nobleman directly, offering to help without any expectation of payment and instructing the noble to just strike him down if he truly doesn't believe him. The masked nobleman looks at his ally, asserting the other has proven to be strong and therefore should give up his ruse and reveal his true self. The masked ally, now smiling, agrees to discuss their plan later, insisting they get dinner first as the dark-haired figure looks on, slightly exasperated. A solemn, black-bordered sign on a city building announces the Queen's memorial service as a late-night moon hangs over the capital. The dark-haired figure glances at a group of soldiers, whispering to a companion about the army's tight security, urging them to follow closely. The dark-haired figure speaks to their companion, their words detailing the urgent need to deliver the order to their ally Grillis, a man the army has already accepted. The two companions walk through the snowy streets, the dark-haired one assuring the other that Grillis will handle the rest of the plan in the capital. A silent tension fills the air as the stern general reveals grim news, his steely gaze unmoved by the shock rippling through the assembly. Footsteps echo across marble as all eyes turn, their attention shifting toward the looming figure approaching the throne room. Standing tall above the crowd, the new monarch announces the death of their predecessor, the heavy truth sinking in for those gathered below. Incredulous voices challenge the throne's authority, accusations of treason sparking heated whispers among the uneasy nobles. Unfazed by confrontation, the queen's sharp smile slices through the turmoil, her words twisting the notion of betrayal with chilling logic. Within the grand hall, loyalists and dissidents alike witness the rise of Louis Eichhorn, each unsure what their uncertain future now holds. From within a cramped car, two figures discuss something intensely, one with short dark hair and a serious expression, the other reacting with surprise to the conversation. The perspective shifts dramatically to a towering city view, with speech bubbles suggesting a chaotic, high-energy scene unfolding in the metropolitan sprawl. A large, black and white close-up of a cat with intense eyes is shown, possibly resting amidst flashing neon signs that read Kumika. In a stylishly dark room, a shadowy figure sits at a desk under a dramatic overhead light, contemplating a chessboard and musing about an ideal that was once merely a dream. A close-up shot of a speech bubble asks a pivotal question. Will this country be able to turn fantasy into reality? The final panel reveals a beautiful but stern character in sharp detail, who declares that we must watch this from beginning to end. Over the scene, the panel is dominated by a vibrant cover image for a work titled Medalist in Fantasio, featuring a determined young character with dark blue hair and armor. The scene shifts to two figures talking beneath a massive, towering structure as the sound effect, rumble, vibrates through the air, suggesting the ground is shaking. A wide shot focuses on a small group of people in front of a distant, indistinct townscape, discussing something about a village over the rumbling. A medium shot captures the group continuing their conversation, their faces partially obscured, as they watch a flying object or animal in the sky. A close-up panel shows the surprised faces of two men as an older, bearded figure states that a powerful individual passed away, right? The final panel shows a shadowy figure with monstrous features flying high above, observing the scene while uttering the cryptic words, The king's magic, huh? A sharp-featured character with flowing blonde hair addresses someone directly, demanding, "You wretched king, just what are you planning?" A close-up of a dark, crystalline structure forms a speech bubble that dramatically announces King Hithlodius, as a white trail emanates from the name. In a somber, low-light setting, a character makes a declaration about trust and a promise to inherit the title of hero from that very day. Two figures look on as a massive speech bubble announces a figure will become the new king. Their face is a mix of concern and determination. The blonde-haired character from the first panel is shown in a tight close-up, their face shadowed by intense emotion as they react to a sudden surprise. The final panel shows a wide-angle view of a battlefield or ruins, where various characters are engaged in a chaotic confrontation amongst shattered structures and power lines. A close-up of an intense, possibly monstrous face is partially obscured by a dark speech bubble, which declares, from the shadows, "I shall look upon this truly." A wide panel captures a chaotic crowd of characters with various expressions of surprise, fear, and panic as a major event seems to be unfolding around them. Two main characters, one blonde and one dark-haired, stand side by side, appearing resolute and ready for the confrontation ahead. Under the looming shadow of a gigantic, winged creature, an anxious voice warns, "Some allegiances will be lost." A dark and frantic scene focuses on two characters in the foreground as someone urgently declares, "And now is the time of those most worthy to become king." The final panel is a striking close-up of a monstrous, enraged face with wide eyes and a snarling mouth, as the sound effect K-Chunka echoes loudly around it. A wide-angle view of a crowd shows various figures discussing the location of Count Louis and the nearby sanctuary church. Two figures are captured in a medium shot. One exclaims in astonishment that they're all candidates to be king. A regal figure in elaborate clothing throws their head back and laughs heartily, proudly proclaiming, "What glorious spectacles!" The same regal figure is shown in a dramatic close-up, their face partially shadowed as they confidently declare, "The mantle of king is mine by right and providence." A new scene shows a seated, elderly man being addressed by a standing figure who suggests the seated man would steal the throne straight away. The elderly figure responds with a somber look, questioning the standing figure's actions and whether they truly believe the candidates, even royalty, are ready for the title. A tall figure stands before a dark-haired woman, declaring a bold ambition to build a kingdom strong enough to withstand any onslaught. The scene cuts to a furious melee, with a character on the left launching a desperate attack against a hulking, armored foe. A rapid-action panel shows a character diving and rolling across a checkered floor, narrowly dodging an attack, as the sound effect, blam, indicates an impact. A composite panel shows the aftermath of a powerful strike, with the armored foe crumbling and the blonde-haired hero looking on with determination. The hero is shown mid-air, hurtling backward from an unseen force, while a severed gauntlet lies on the white ground below. In a final, shocked close-up, the hero's face contorts in pain and confusion as they cry out, I can't move. What is this?" Two elf-like characters look on with concern as one recognizes the paralysis is caused by magical chains holding their companion, Aruz. In a chaotic, dark scene, Aruz struggles against the monstrous enemy, who is engulfed in shadow and declares he will not suffer the disgrace of his people's will. A close-up of a monstrous face, teeth bared in an enraged yell, shows the creature reacting in disbelief to the question, "Your Majesty, why?" A crowd of surprised and concerned onlookers discusses the shocking possibility that someone was trying to kill Louis and the king. Three solemn-looking figures stand together, two with pointed ears, observing the unfolding events with an air of grave authority. The final panel focuses on a calm, red-haired elf who simply addresses one of her companions with a soft, querying look, "Louis." A character with flowing white hair and a look of contempt laughs maniacally, their entire body contorted in a vertical panel. The laughter subsides as the character muses that the opponent is an impressive descendant of the royal family, presumably Father Portic. An elderly man with dark glasses leans in as another figure cynically tells him to see how he has rewarded your loyalty. A dramatic close-up focuses on the distressed, furrowed brow and intense expression of a character, calling out a name, Maria. A blade flashes across the panel with the sound effect slash, cutting through the air and leaving a dark trail as a character dodges or attacks. The final panel is split, showing a small, defenseless figure suspended in the blackness above a dark room where a shadowy figure looms over a fallen throne. A character with wide, shocked eyes and short, dark hair stares blankly ahead, uttering a single word of disbelief. No. A dynamic, action-filled panel shows a figure falling backward in the middle of an explosion of black ink and white light. A wounded, angry figure is shown in a tight close-up, covered in dark spatters as they clutch their chest and gasp, "This can't be." Two panels are layered together, showing one character reacting in panic to a sudden, close threat, while a second, blonde character yells to them, "Look out for the dinner." The scene abruptly shifts to a detailed close-up of a perfectly roasted piece of meat, proudly declared as the specialty of the August home gulf. The final panel shows a group of 5 characters happily gathered around a dining table, eagerly enjoying the magnificent meal. A character cries out about a small cut inside their mouth, while another character addresses them. "Hey, mister." A young, bright-eyed girl with short blonde hair and a floral wreath innocently asks, "After dinner, can you read me the book again?" Another character with dark, short hair smiles warmly in response to the request, confidently replying, "Sure, of course." A character with an eye patch remarks on how surprised they are to see their companion, Maria, so taken with someone else. The one-eyed character then turns to the person holding the book and sincerely states that Maria has been waiting for a long time to make friends. The group is shown relaxing together after the meal, with one character musing that they are all just together again, while they all share a moment of peace. A shadowy, winged entity hovers over a dark, ominous structure, emitting a frightening, distorted shriek. Two figures are locked in a struggle, with one blonde character restraining a struggling, dark-haired figure as the sound effect GRUS slices through the air. The blonde-haired figure expresses empathy for his comrade, acknowledging, "I know how you feel. I feel the same," but insists that their failed plan means they cannot fall now. A close-up of the dark-haired figure shows their intense stare as they silently consider the question. Then who will lift the prince's curse? A female character with striking red hair and a high collar addresses a figure who is presumably the queen, arguing that a ruse was trying to save the prince and her son. In the chaotic final panel, one character urgently declares that the king is dead, as another character suggests that the artifact has a will of its own, separate from the king's magic. A concerned character questions the nature of the crisis, asking if there is a grand sort of magic that the king can truly use. A second character confirms the magic's nature, likening it to a magical puppet that moves and reacts according to pre-programmed conditions. A wide, dark shot shows the monstrous head of a creature, with one character declaring the entire event is part of Lewis's plan. A simple panel features a single character looking away, their mind focused on the difficult concept of good people. A pair of stacked panels show 2 different scenes, one of an unseen character being told to go home, and another of a cloaked figure being told to keep a sharp watch. The final, highly detailed panel features a monstrous, armored figure declaring that Lewis and the nobles will surely be begging before them soon. A determined, feline-featured character shouts vertically down the page, declaring that this country no longer has the power to protect its own people. The same character leans in with a smug, condescending smile, offering, "Let me show you the truth." The scene cuts to a chaotic battle, with characters dodging and attacking as the sound effects KRK and BM indicate fast, brutal action. A gigantic flying warship with the name Taj Shari emblazoned on its hull descends from the sky, its powerful presence shaking the ground. A close-up on an older, bearded figure shows their face contorted in disbelief as they realize what the warship is carrying, gasping, "That? It can't be." The final, fragmented panel captures the intense reaction of a shocked figure staring up in horror at the approaching terror. A desperate voice screams in terror, warning everyone to run away, as the massive, approaching threat is falling closer to their location. A gigantic, dark warship fills the sky, overshadowing the tiny figures below who watch as the ship's cannons extend. The warship crashes down with a massive BM, throwing debris and smoke into the air as the figures below are scattered by the impact. A regal figure with flowing blonde hair emerges from the dust, condescendingly telling the sheltered crowd that they have been blinded by walls of stone. A sudden, intense close-up on the blonde figure's piercing eyes shows their shock and revulsion as they hiss. A human. The final, wide panel shows a massive, dark, winged creature flying over the tiny, distant city below, its terrifying shriek echoing over the sound of the approaching crisis. A wide close-up captures a massive, grotesque face covered in thick fur and teeth, roaring in agonizing ADH into the open air. A woman in the upper frame questions why the others are just talking and not doing anything, while a man in the lower frame asks, "What is that thing?" A character with feline features dramatically declares that only a man of ridiculous ambition deserves the crown, even as monstrous shadows stretch across the land. A small, fragmented panel shows a cloaked figure speaking, revealing that they have been tasked to observe what develops in the chaotic confrontation. A gigantic, monstrous head looms over a screaming crowd below, as symbols marked P appear over various individuals in the throng. A tight close-up shows the horrified faces of two figures pressed together, one of whom cries out, "Hey, Lewis." Lewis's face is getting bigger. A character in dark clothing confronts another, declaring their refusal to let the Kingslayer escape punishment for attempting to beguile the people. A close-up on a beautiful, severe face with long hair shows them listening to the threat, their only response being a cool, "We'll see about that." A sudden vertical panel captures a chaotic explosion of light and shrapnel, with the sound effect BM, indicating a massive concussive force. A wide, energetic panel shows a character diving away from a black explosion as they call out a warning about a flying assassin or a suicide party. The scene is dominated by a figure in a white cloak standing their ground against a flurry of falling debris and incoming attacks, their power creating a massive shield effect. In the final panel, a dark-haired character turns their back on a companion, saying, "I leave the rest to you." A powerful downward strike is narrowly dodged in the top panel, while the bottom panel shows the resulting explosion of debris and dust erupting from the ground. Two figures stand amidst a desolate, cratered landscape, looking at the massive hole in the earth and wondering what caused such a devastating blast. A dramatic figure in a dark, flowing coat stands tall against a stark white background, holding a weapon and calmly asserting, "I can't lose." A tight close-up on a character with long, dark hair and an intense gaze shows them questioning their companion. "Hey, where's the royal scepter?" A crowd of monstrous figures is shown in a tight grouping, angrily refusing to reveal the location of the scepter and asking for the whereabouts of their leader, Lewis. The final fragmented panel captures an urgent plea from a female character to the man holding the book, warning him to be careful of the surrounding danger. A large crowd of demonic figures screams in unison, demanding to know what the lone figure plans to do about the scepter. The lone figure stands in the center of the panel, calmly asserting that the enemy is a necromancer and a trap amidst a swirling mass of shadowy foes. A close-up shows a character with short hair and a solemn expression speaking, while a large, rotting face is seen below, suggesting the enemy is animated by foul magic. A frantic figure is seen from a low angle, dramatically yelling, "What kind of magic is this?" as a powerful burst of light emanates from a shadowy hand. The battle intensifies as the lone hero is surrounded by a torrent of skeletal figures, forcing them to fight through the horde of undead. The final vertical panel captures the full chaos of the battle, with the hero launching a powerful attack that sends the animated corpses flying into the air. A figure with long, dark hair is cornered against a wall, acknowledging they have heard the opponent's intentions, but warning that beating them will not be fun. The perspective shifts to a chaotic mid-air brawl, where a character is thrown backward while others attack with swords and energy blasts. The dark-haired figure from the first panel leaps high into the air, wielding a blade, as they dive down onto two surprised opponents below. The scene calms momentarily, focusing on two individuals in military-style clothing having a quiet, concerned discussion about the ongoing danger. A close-up of a stern-faced, red-haired woman shows her giving an order to her companions, demanding information about the real villain and the royal scepter. The final panel returns to the frantic battle, capturing a close-up of a character's determined face as they struggle against a powerful, unseen force. A shadowy figure looms large, beckoning with a wicked grin. Ah, very nice. Interesting. Come on, struggle some more. The sinister antagonist laughs wildly, promising to reveal the terrifying truth of this land with a powerful, blazing surge of energy. A deafening boom rocks the landscape, centered on a shattered piece of ground as powerful forces clash. Two smaller figures huddle, eyes wide in disbelief and terror at the chaos unfolding around them. A red-hooded person stares in shock, questioning in disbelief. Isn't that thing just a corpse? But how? A determined figure declares with conviction. The saints can't save this world. If this world has a god, then it must be Lord Lewis. A horrified figure screams in terror, facing an unseen threat, as another intense face looms from the edge of the panel. The second panel is a vibrant, full-color cover illustration, showcasing a title, Medaka box, and three dynamic characters ready for action. A large, powerful arm swings down with a resounding whap, as a character warns, it's a human. A frantic exchange occurs amidst a swirling crowd, asking, what's up? What's wrong? And urging others to get up, you idiot. What's wrong with you? A wide-eyed figure is completely consumed by a looming, dark silhouette that bellows a frightening, primal grrrr. A close-up shot of a manic face depicts pure rage and desperation, the figure screaming amid a flurry of agitated visual effects. A monstrous figure with wide, bulging eyes and a massive grin screams, surrounded by swirling darkness and intense visual effects. A determined fighter with dark hair stares intently, challenging the opponent with a stern look and the demand, quit looking around. Your fight is with. Two figures clash violently in midair, their swords meeting with a bright flash and a resounding crash, as a small, winged insect buzzes nearby. The fighters move across a vast, dangerous landscape marked by jagged structures, as one character asks, what are the honest odds? A close-up shot of a worried female character's face shows her confusion as she questions, what kind of black magic is this? It feels like you want to throw me out of it. The combatants strike with incredible force, a massive KWWA sound effect accompanying the violent impact of their attack, as one figure cries out, A shadowy figure with glowing eyes speaks in panic, realizing the enemy has spotted them and warning that the ongoing struggle is about to close in. A determined character resolves that they must stop the advancing threat, fearing it would be catastrophic if it breaches the city's defenses. Amidst a burst of debris and motion lines, three figures charge forward, one shouting a battle cry to go for the legs. A figure winces in pain and admits, ugh, it's too tough, as they struggle against a relentless opponent they haven't yet knocked out. A powerful strike connects with a dull, heavy thud, sending a dark-haired figure reeling backward from the force of the blow. Two figures exchange urgent words in a crowded space, one asking if they can fight them, while the other points out the sheer number of enemies. A figure clenches their teeth, bracing against a relentless attack of energy streaks that surround them. Two figures shout Awa as they attack a giant opponent, one questioning why the other would strike the torso again. A character with short hair looks downcast, commenting that they could use just a little bit more strength, wishing their strike had more weight. A figure with long, dark hair stares with intensity, boldly declaring with confidence, I could break it. Two figures observe a massive, pale creature, one noting that its back looks like it's made of bones while the other asks why it's grinning. A figure with dark hair stares in utter confusion at a bizarre opponent, asking aloud what kind of creature has a back for a torso. Under a blinding sunburst, two lone figures stand on a dirt path, one of them leaning on a large staff, ready to face the impending confrontation. Amidst a rush of speed lines, two worried individuals argue about what their companion really wants from the situation. A figure in a suit leaps dynamically into the air, mid-kick, propelled by a burst of energy and movement lines. Two faces are shown in close-up, one grinning menacingly at the other with an unsettling cheer, a great victory. A powerful, sweeping strike crashes down, sending shockwaves and debris flying around the figure caught in the attack's wake. A final, bone-jarring impact is signaled by a crash, as a character whispers that they will fight the threat with a heavy secret that must not really follow. A dark figure unleashes a devastating array of curved energy blades, tearing through the air towards an unseen opponent. A group huddles together, one member questioning if they've cracked a skull, while another urges everyone to get up and move. Three characters stare in bewildered confusion, their eyes wide as one of them utters a simple, perplexed, "Huh." A silhouetted figure crashes onto a massive, spherical surface with a dull krrr sound, leaving an impression of immense force. The battle rages under a dramatic sky in two separate but connected scenes, showing a group assembling on a high platform and others attacking in the lower foreground. A figure with a crazed, triumphant look screams with laughter, celebrating their victory as debris and energy lines swirl around them. A shadowy, armored figure wields a massive, wicked-looking staff, questioning if this object is the legendary royal scepter. Three figures discuss their plans, confident that thanks to the royal creature, this entire country will soon be theirs, and they plan to snatch the scepter during the celebration. A towering man in a dark coat and hat, identified as Lord Lewis, listens intently as a small, red-haired girl asks what is so amazing about the scepter. The red-haired girl looks up, surprised and a little angry, demanding to know if her companion came all the way here knowing that vital piece of information. A tall, dark-haired figure confirms with a casual, "Of course," when asked by his companion if he knew the information, referring to him as Big Brother. The blonde-haired accomplice explains the scepter's power. It is the key to unlock the divine relic, and the royal magic it grants is the only thing that can give them power over the harshness. A single speech bubble explains that the crown's rule is absolute thanks to the magic of kings, which is why the scepter is valued so highly. A small girl looks in awe at Lord Lewis and says she knew he was amazing, while he laughs with a triumphant ha-ha. The girl gasps with a quick faux as a panel cuts to a sudden, intense close-up on the wide, shocked eye of the blonde accomplice. A furious blast of fire and light erupts, completely engulfing a figure with a devastating force. The tall man yells in anger, referencing the scepter as the small girl looks up at him with concern. The angry man's face fills the frame, his voice booming that the faith of the people cannot lie and declaring his foe unworthy of the crown's authority. A stern figure declares a vow to keep the scepter until a worthy successor can be found to take its mantle. A pale-haired figure with sharp eyes listens intently to a companion, who points out their plan to go along with a mortalist curse. A dark figure slams a fist down with a resounding flap, confidently asserting that the people will choose him because he's the only one who can save them, and the result won't change. A close-up of the stern figure's face shows them calmly commanding the king to simply stay and watch what truly moves the hearts of men. A massive, white, spherical creature with an unervingly large grin looms over a group of tiny figures, one of whom cries out the word terror. Silhouettes of figures stand over a crumbling battlefield, surveying the catastrophic destruction that has been wrought upon the city below. A creature laughs menacingly at the sight of its fleeing prey, declaring the escape attempt so creepy as they disappear over the horizon. The armored figure ponders the terrifying speed and unpredictable tactics of his monster foe, whose brain-like attacks continually close in only to dart back out again. The monster, a massive hulking figure, stands over the collapsing armored one, proclaiming the defeated state is simply, that is, a human for you. A pale-haired person listens wide-eyed to a statement, recognizing that the situation has devolved past any point where common sense or typical expectations could apply. A fairy-like creature vehemently insists on stopping the noble-looking man from his reckless plan, declaring that they will not let him proceed even if it costs them their life. The noble-looking man, dressed in dark attire, turns away from the floating creature who questions what he's talking about, while he bitterly reflects on the price of being noble and having to repeatedly flee. The small fairy looks on with wide, pleading eyes at the stern-faced man, repeating their single, desperate question again. The fairy reminds the man of their previous talk, asking if he remembers how yesterday, that pompous fellow told us we had to flee to the capital. The man confirms the memory with a curt, yes, it was a human. But then the small creature wonders with surprise. An alliance of humans and a monster? The man explains the long history of conflict, noting that the royal house has been carrying it out for 5 years while small villages on the frontiers have been swallowed one after another, and that the fighting all started 7 years ago. The man stands, back to the viewer, surveying the smoking rubble of what was a settlement, and recalls that 7 years ago, the conflict was already on the first tributary of the river Tsagana, where a village named Haka was utterly destroyed. As the man pauses, a small voice from an unseen character asks, "And you?" referring to the fact that a survivor from that village is standing right there. The pale-haired person listens intently to the man's tragic story, their face a mixture of shock and deep concern. The man recounts his parents' final, heroic act, fighting to buy him time to escape with the other villagers, even as the enemy closed in and stole their last breath. He then reveals the heartbreaking reason for his parents' sacrifice, stating that it was so he, the son of a lord, could run away. With a furrowed brow, the man describes how, even after their escape, they received news that the army was still nearby, forcing him to disguise himself as an officer, lock himself into military intelligence, and finally figure out the true cause of the conflict. He confesses the painful truth he had uncovered, admitting that for a long time, he kept asking himself why, but he finally understood that his own hometown was used as bait. Overcome with anger, the man's face is obscured by shadow as he details how the man named Lewis set up the devastating trap and became king, and how he now seeks to overthrow the king and save the people. A stern, armored man tells the small, dark-haired figure that they must survive no matter what, reminding them of the important mission they have. A tall, elf-like woman asks the man directly if his crucial and dangerous task is to assassinate the king, Lewis. A young woman with long hair leans forward with a questioning look, confirming her understanding of the situation by asking if the dark-haired figure is friends with Alsace, the man who tried to kill Lewis. The small figure looks up with wide, shocked eyes and asks desperately what happens now, wondering if they will be turned over to the army and if this betrayal is what Alsace had intended. The small figure repeats her panicked question, clearly shaken and demanding to know the consequences of her friend's actions and if they are to be handed over to the military. A deep, unseen voice answers the panicked figure with a resounding denial, stating simply, "No, nothing of the sort," as a gloved hand is seen reaching down in the foreground. The dark-haired man clarifies his understanding of a 12-year-old conflict, acknowledging that the other man, Alsace, swore loyalty to the king and his son, the prince, but ultimately lost both of them in a great battle. The warrior continues, explaining that Alsace fought under the oath to protect the land, his people, and the prince, but his efforts were ultimately betrayed by a rebellion he never foresaw. The noble-looking man, hat shading his eyes, leans into the speaker and asks, in a low voice, if they realize they have no chance of winning the fight. The elf-like woman looks thoughtful as she replies, admitting that she tried to think outside the box like the dark-haired man does, realizing there might be one thing they haven't yet tried. The small figure looks up at a massive, shadowy silhouette, which declares it would normally be impossible, but they should look above the human's heart. The monstrous silhouette delivers a devastating blow, striking the center of the armored figure's chest and declaring with a roar that the only place for that little thing to be is the heart. A cheerful, blonde-haired man encourages his two younger companions, saying they'll bet everything on this desperate move to protect their noble friend. The dark, monstrous figure reels back in pain, roaring as the armored man pierces the exposed area above its heart with a furious thrust of his weapon. The armored figure shouts, "I'm here," with grim determination as he drives his sword further into the struggling creature's chest. The armored hero strains, leveraging his entire body to break the monster's defenses with his powerful greatsword. In a blur of action, the hero capitalizes on the monster's broken posture, moving to strike a final blow before the ambush that follows can pour out. With the battle joined, the armored man and the blonde-haired man yell in excitement as they begin their final, coordinated attack. The dark-haired man is flung backward in a violent explosion of force, his body twisting in midair as he is knocked away by the monster's ambush. The blonde man shouts an urgent warning to his comrade to fall back, as the monster, completely covered in shadow, lets out a fierce cry of, "I will." A massive smash echoes as the monster is split down the middle by a decisive, two-person attack, showering the entire area in a torrent of blood. A dark-haired woman, unperturbed by the gore, tells her companion that the other group is too late, but admits they pulled off a clever maneuver. The blonde man laughs victoriously as the monster's body disintegrates around them, celebrating that they managed to slay a monster, kill Lewis, and save the capital. The figure from the first panel lies on the ground, wounded but alive, managing a single, ragged breath before the panel's end. In a white void, the dark-haired man whispers in despair, "Again, I couldn't protect anyone," as his body hits the ground with a soft thump. The dark-haired man is seen collapsed on a stone floor, his armored body surrounded by debris, as a massive shadow looms over him. A person with wide, shocked eyes stares in horror, their mouth agape at the tragic sight of the fallen hero. A pale-haired figure with blood staining their cheek looks on with a mixture of terror and anguish, their attention fixed on the devastating aftermath. The dark-haired man admits with a strained expression that all his comrades were killed in a terrible battle, and that this monster, Lewis, took everything and spit upon his friend's memory. The blonde man declares that he will die with the dark-haired figure as the colossal shadow continues its descent, crushing the area below with a deafening impact. In a rapid flurry of cuts, the dark-haired man is shown moving through the melee, shouting desperately to his comrades, asserting that he is still alive. The dark-haired man, his face covered in blood and sweat, shouts with desperate triumph the unbelievable truth. The prince is alive. A pale-haired figure stares in stunned silence, their eyes wide with disbelief at the unbelievable proclamation they have just heard. The blonde man holds his sword aloft and clarifies their new objective, agreeing that they must hunt Lewis, but stating their true aim is not revenge, but to lift the prince's curse. The dark-haired man, his face now a mask of grim determination, rushes forward through the wreckage, shouting for his comrades to follow him before the enemies recover. The pale-haired figure coughs violently and cries out in pain as she confirms she's okay, managing a forced, tearful smile despite her injuries. The small fairy insists that the dark-haired man shouldn't push himself or the curse, but he firmly declares that he knows his limits and will fight to the end because he is the prince. The pale-haired figure speaks solemnly, explaining that only one who can leave a reason will protect the kingdom when all others fail, and that a true hero is merely a servant of the people. A blonde man confirms the understanding of his companion, stating simply that the ability of the hero persists until the world is at peace. The pale-haired figure declares that many royal people can believe in their future, but that their death should never matter. The dark-haired man's face, bruised and bloody, is shown in close-up as he shouts his final, desperate resolve, "I must fight on." The figure floats up in a bright void, acknowledging the impossible difficulty of the struggle, while a framed text appears to define heroism as a strength that stands far against one's fears. A voice echoes from the blinding white light, commanding the prince to awaken the hero within and engrave thy very heart with his purpose. The dark-haired prince looks inward, placing a hand over his chest as he whispers, "My heart." The prince unleashes a monstrous burst of power from his chest, screaming, "Awaken," as the dark energy violently rips through his own body and the surrounding area. The prince's power explodes outward in a furious, blinding torrent of energy and slashes, accompanied by a deafening ROA. The dark-haired man screams in raw pain and confusion as he questions, "What is this?" feeling the agonizing surge of power within him. Now completely transformed, the prince rises into the air, a final, dark form ascending from the ruins of the battleground. The wounded elf-like woman glares with intensity, asserting that fear cannot rule the hearts and minds of the people, and tells her enemy, Lewis, that he was wrong. The elf-like woman, tears and blood staining her face, insists that the thing driving her heart right now is something else entirely. The elf-like woman, tears streaming down her face, looks at the prince with a heartbreaking mix of love and pride.